What is going on, guys? Hikari5880 here, and today I'm bringing you another Brave Frontier Global video. This time we have Owen and Grah's extra trial, Breaking Barriers, which has finally been released onto Global. And in order to evolve Grah and Owen to their 7-star forms, you need to have completed this trial to get their evolution materials. So let's go into the team composition here. So the team I used consisted of an Isterio Lead. Isterio is very good as a lead here. If you do have him, I highly recommend using him. He had Metal Orb, Occult Treasure, and a 15% boost to all stat Elgif on him. I then brought Krantz as my mitigator with Phantom Gizmo and Schism Orb, and he had a 15% boost to attack and defense Elgif on him. Then I had Charla with Bourn Jewel and Sacred Crystal, as well as a 20% boost to all stat Elgif on her. Then I brought along Reihard with Fallacy Orb, Occult Treasure, and a 10% boost to all stat Elgif equipped on him. And then finally I brought Zephyr, who just recently got his 7-star form, and he had Phantom Device, Occult Treasure, and a 20% boost to defense Elgif on him. Now in terms of the friend to bring here, I highly do recommend bringing a Laberd friend here. He does help to take a lot of the damage throughout the trial. But you can also bring a Grah 7-star if you are fortunate enough to have one on your friend list, especially with that 50% boost to all stats, which does help a lot. But over here I brought a Laberd friend with Beiorg armor and steel orb. In terms of the items I brought in this trial, I brought 2 crescent dews, 2 revive lights, 3 fusion tonics, 2 fusion potions, and 1 hero crystal. So this trial consists of 3 battles. The first battle you'll be up against is Owen's 6-star form, and a couple of things to note in this battle in particular. So Owen can be injured, so if you do have that Isterio Lead, expect to have Owen injured quite often, and it does help to take a lot of the damage, especially in battle 3 as well. Another thing to note is that Owen can inflict injury and weakness on your units, so make sure you have that negate status ailment buff on as often as possible. So in this case I use Reihard's normal brave burst usually every 3 turns to make sure that I have that negate status ailment buff on to counter that injury and weakness. Another thing to note is that you do not want to use any items while Owen's HP is above 80%. This is because if you do use items, Owen will likely retaliate and start attacking your units. So I highly recommend that on the first turn you simply use normal attacks to fill up your unit's brave burst gauges and go from there. Now in terms of the HP thresholds, at 80% HP, Owen will use 2 single target buff wipe attacks on the unit with the highest HP. In this case my highest HP unit was Charla, so she took on both of those buff wipe attacks. Then at 75% HP, Owen will summon 7-star Duran, and Duran can be inflicted with a range of status ailments, so you can paralyze him, poison him, and also inflict injury on Duran. If you can manage to inflict these status ailments, it does help a ton. Other than that, Duran doesn't do much. He can enter overdrive and then use his UBB attack, but it really does not do much damage as long as you have mitigation up. Then at 50% HP, Owen will summon 7-star Lilith. Now Lilith again can be inflicted with a range of status ailments. In this case she can be inflicted with paralysis, injury, and curse, and if you manage to curse or paralyze Lilith, it does lock her out for the battle, and that does help a lot. And again, she can enter her overdrive and use her UBB attack. Then at 40% HP, Owen will use 2 single target buff wipe attacks. This time it will be on 2 random units, so not really much you can do here other than just continuing on and attacking and making sure that you have mitigation on. Then at 30% HP, Owen will summon 7-star Reihard, and again Reihard, much like everyone else, can be inflicted with status ailments. He can be inflicted with paralysis, injury, and sickness, and again he can also enter overdrive and use his ultimate brave burst attack. One thing to note is that Reihard's ultimate brave burst attack does hit fairly hard, so you want to make sure you avoid overlapping that UBB attack with Owen's 15% HP threshold, and at 15% HP Owen will use an AoE attack with a buff wipe. So this is why I highly recommend killing Reihard as fast as possible so that Reviora, his UBB doesn't overlap with that 15% HP threshold. Other than that, this is a fairly straightforward battle. A lot of people tend to be able to auto battle this first battle. Is really that easy, especially if you have a solid team composition. And one other thing I would say is that to note is when you do finish this first battle, try to finish it off with your Brave Bursts / Super Brave Bursts all full. So on to the second battle now. So the second battle you'll be up against is Grah's 6-star form. So there are a lot of rules to note in this battle in particular. So in terms of status ailments, Grah can be inflicted with sickness and injury. Very useful, especially because at 100% HP, Grah will charge up for a strong AoE attack called Apocalypse Zero, and if he does unleash this attack, it does hit very hard, and the only way to really survive it is to either have 82.5% mitigation, so that's basically your ultimate Brave Burst mitigation and normal mitigation stacked together, or you can inflict sickness on him, which will cause him to debuff himself and cancel out that attack, which is why that Isterio Lead here does help a lot. Another thing to note is that Grah can inflict a very new buff onto your units called BB Gorge Fill Rate debuff. So what that does is it reduces your units' BB Gorge fill rate, and that does help. That does hinder a lot of your units' Super Brave Burst management. But not too big of a deal. But the very important rule to note here is that you can only be using 3 Brave Burst, Super Brave Burst, or Ultimate Brave Burst attacks per turn for the entire battle. So I highly recommend what you do is rotate between units throughout the trial to maintain your units' buffs. This is why I have 2 mitigators on my team, so that I can switch between the 2 each turn. Another thing to note is that Grah will use a BB drain if you do use if you do use 4 Brave Burst, Super Brave Burst, or Ultimate Brave Burst attacks, and if you use 5 or more Super Brave Burst, Ultimate Brave Burst, or normal Brave Burst attacks, then Grah will use a 3-turn leader skill lock, which you really do not want, especially with the units he's summoning that do a fair bit of damage. And as I did state, on turn 1, Grah does charge up for that attack, so the best way to really survive that is to inflict sickness. Now in terms of its HP thresholds, after 100%, at 75% HP, Grah will summon 7-star Febros. Febros, much like every unit in this trial, can be inflicted with a status ailment, so he can be inflicted with poison, injury, and weakness. And do not kill Febros until Grah's HP is below 50%. And once Grah's HP does hit 50%, Febros will enter overdrive and then use his ultimate Brave Burst attack the following turn. What I highly recommend you do is take down Febros' HP very low, to the point where you can one-shot him on the next turn once you pass Grah's 50% HP threshold. This is because once Grah does hit 50% HP, he does charge up for an AoE attack with a leader skill lock and a BB drain on it. And if you manage to kill Febros or Reihard, who he summons at 60% HP threshold, then it does cancel out that attack. And as I mentioned, he does summon Reihard at 60% HP, and Reihard can be injured and cursed. Reihard doesn't really do that much, he's really just there to aid your BB management. Other than that, I would focus on Febros and just take him out as soon as Grah hits 50% HP. You can also use UBB mitigation to survive that 50% HP threshold, but it doesn't cancel out the attack and you will still get a leader skill lock. Then at 25% HP, Grah will summon 7-star Drivus, and Drivus can be inflicted with sickness and weakness. Honestly not that big of a deal, but Drivus will give a status ailment buff, inflict status ailment buff to all enemy units, so make sure you have that status ailment negation on as often as possible. And then finally, at 10% HP, Grah will use an AoE attack, which doesn't really hit that hard surprisingly. Just have normal mitigation on and you should survive fairly easily. And again, with this battle, make sure that when you finish the battle, you have your units Brave Bursts / Super Brave Bursts all full, and you should be fine. So the final battle, which is the most tough one of the lot, is against Grah and Owen's 7 stars. So there are a lot of rules to note here. The first thing to note are the key points and the turn counters. So much like their first and second battle forms, they can be injured and inflicted with sickness. Do not be using any items throughout this entire trial, or Owen will retaliate with a buff wipe AoE attack. The only time you can really use an item is when you see that Owen is in a meditating state. While Grah's HP is above 50%, you can only use 4 Brave Burst and Super Brave Burst attacks, so there is still that rule there, but not as harsh as Battle 3. Then once Grah's HP is below 50%, you can only use Brave Bursts equal to the number of units alive. So for example, if you have 6 units alive, you can only use 3 Brave Burst attacks. If you have 5 or 4 units alive, you can only use 2 Brave Burst attacks. And then if you have 3 or 2 units, you can only use 1 Brave Burst attack. Another thing to note is that while Grah's HP is above 50%, do not use any ultimate Brave Burst attacks, or this will result in Grah retaliating with an AoE attack that has a 999 turn leader skill lock, and you really do not want that. Another thing to note is that every 4 turns, Grah will either use a Brave Burst Gorge Drain attack or a Dark Shield attack, depending on whether he's inflicted with a status ailment or not. So if you inflict him with injury and sickness, he will likely use the Dark Shield. If he isn't inflicted with a status ailment, then Grah will use a BB Drain attack. So I highly recommend that you take Grah's HP down to 50% first before Owen's. This cancels out Owen's 50% HP threshold attack. So in this case, what I do is take down Grah's HP just above 50%, and then I activate Isterio's ultimate Brave Burst. The reason for this is you want to be inflicting status ailments at 50% HP because of Grah's 50% HP threshold. We'll get onto that in just a second. Another thing to note is that every 6 turns after 80% HP, Owen will use a damage reflect buff called Stalwart Wall, and then he will then inflict damage over time the turn after. So make sure you have heal over time to counter that. And as I said, focus on Grah for this for this battle. You want to take out Grah first before going on to Owen. Then in terms of the HP thresholds, at 90% HP, Owen will use a single target buff wipe attack on your unit with the highest HP. I highly recommend just guarding your highest HP unit just to be safe, especially since you have to be dealing with both Grah and Owen. Then at 80% HP, Owen will start to use the damage reflect every 6 turns, as I mentioned. So again, just keep an eye on that and make sure that when that damage reflect buff is on, you're using your healing unit last. Okay, so you don't want to be using it first. You want to use your healing unit once all your units have taken the reflect damage. And then finally at 15% HP, Owen will enter overdrive and then use a fairly strong AoE attack after 2 turns. To be honest, just having ultimate Brave Burst mitigation and standard mitigation on will pretty much help to survive that. But if you want to be a bit more extreme, you can go to nuke him to 0% HP, but this is fairly risky. In terms of Grah's HP thresholds, so at 70% HP, Grah will prepare for an attack that he will use on the following turn, depending on how much damage you deal on him. So if you manage to deal 50,000 damage on Grah on that HP threshold, then he will simply use a Dark Shield buff. However, if you fail to inflict 50,000 damage on him, then Grah will use a 3-turn leader skill lock attack instead. Now, as I mentioned, that 50% HP threshold that Grah has, so what will happen at 50% HP as you pass Grah's 50% HP threshold, both Owen and Grah will charge up for a ultimate attack for 4 turns. So they won't really be doing much for those 4 turns, simply just attacking you with fairly little damage. So here I highly recommend using your status ailment UBB here to inflict sickness on both Grah and Owen. By inflicting sickness on them, you do pretty much cancel out their ultimate attack that comes on turn 5 after passing 50% HP. You can also try to survive it in terms of angel idols, but again, it is fairly risky, so I highly recommend just using sickness. One other thing that I did read is that if you manage to deal enough damage on both Grah and Owen after 50% HP, that can also cancel the attack. Then at 40% HP, Grah will use the same attack as he did at 70% HP, and then finally at 15% HP, Grah will enter overdrive and use a strong AoE attack 2 turns after, and he will also gain a heal over time buff. So over here you want to have mitigation and ultimate brave burst mitigation on as you pass that 15% HP threshold, and then take down Grah first. So in terms of the team composition here, I brought Charla for her critical and spark buff, as well as the heal over time buff. Zephyr for boosting all stats, as well as his hit count is very nice here. Isterio the Lead and the MVP for inflicting status ailments, as well as his BB mod on his super brave burst. Reihard to negate status ailments and reduce elemental damage, especially from Owen. Laberd friend here, very nice leader skill in terms of boosting defense and HP, as well as giving brave burst on damage, and his mitigation buff is very nice as well, with the possible attack reduction. And then finally I brought Krantz here because he gives that light buff, which can help to take down Grah quicker, and he also gives that mitigation and heal, which can help as well. In terms of alternative units, Isterio, he can be replaced with Kafka, but I wouldn't recommend having Kafka as your lead, mainly because she would be slightly squishy. In terms of Charla replacements, you can have Elsa. Elsa is a very nice unit to have here, and Selena as well, her Omni evolution when it does come, very nice here as well. In terms of replacements for Krantz, you can use Lafil, Gazia, Dolk. Again, you can use Kafka for the elemental buffs, but make sure really you want 2 mitigators. Zephyr, he can be replaced with Nadore or Paris. Paris is a very nice unit to bring here, so if you do have her 7-star form, I highly recommend it here. Reihard, he can be replaced with Alanon, Limera, and Samira is very nice here. And then finally, the Laberd friend, like I said, you can replace it with a Grah friend or any friend that helps to improve your stats. And that is it for this trial, guys. I hope it does help you out. There is a lot going on in this trial, so hopefully I have clarified the HP thresholds as clearly as possible for you guys. As in that final battle, Owen's HP thresholds are highlighted in red, and Grah's HP thresholds are highlighted in a purple dark color. So for completing this trial, you get 1 gem, 1 Medblair sphere, which is very strong. You also get those materials, Grand Amethyst and Grand Garnet, to evolve Owen and Grah to their 7-star forms. And that is it for this video, guys. I hope it helped you out. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you have not already. And as usual, guys, I will see you in the next video. See ya.